Welcome to another episode of the Power Comics Book Club. I am Evan Husney, joined by
Benjamin Marra.
What's up? What's up? And today
How
we're
we doing?
looking at we're doing good, man. We're doing good. Even better now that we're going to be looking at Torch.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Let me ask you before we get into this, because I know you've read it now, and of course I have. When I told you about this, and I sent you this, and I sent you the cover or whatever, what did you anticipate this would be about?
I thought it was going to be just a run-of-the-mill, like generic superhero pastiche, like a Superman pastiche type thing.
Mm,
But from the cover, I kind of got the impression that maybe it was going to be more childlike,
right.
more kid-oriented, that sort of thing.
Right.
It is not. It is not any of those things.
So before we crack it open, if you're new to the channel, the Power Comics Book Club. So what we're doing is me and Benjamin are getting together, and we're basically sharing issues between us, picking one, trying to do it once a week, where we're going to be looking at select issues, reading them, sharing them with all of you, uploading them to our Patreon. Y'all get a chance to read them, and then a couple days later, man, we're going to come back together and try and parse through this shit and figure out what the hell happened. How did this come to be? So, all right. So for me, I have a little bit of a backstory with this before we crack it open. I'm a huge fan of this Earthman. This is a comic that we've championed here at Power Comics before. When I first discovered this, I could not believe it. First off, like, again, something that also looks pretty childlike, kind of on the facade of this thing. But when I cracked this thing open, man, this was, absolutely this bizarre, like these 1950s looking, like, space cadets landing on this planet and finding that there's a Dracula in the mix, and then it kind of becomes this whodunit thriller. I mean, look at these amazing, panels here too. It's just like it's just was so
A
wild.
A plus, so good.
Yeah, and then I'm like looking through this, and apparently I'm finding on Bob Nunn is the mastermind behind this, and I'm looking at this, and apparently this was released in the '90s, and I'm like, there's no way that this didn't come from 1948 Bulgaria. There's no way that this is part of our, like our, part of the world here. It's just
Definitely was created beyond behind the Iron Curtain.
yes,
Like
yeah,
devoid of any kind of Western influence.
absolutely. And like the whole, just like spoiler alert on Earthman, by the way, the whole plot hinges on one guy discovering that, oh, at one point the cord of the phone was over here, but now it's over here. So it's just like this dude is huffing too much Earthman here. Anyway, so it was a delight to be able to find Torch. Finally get this incredible copy to see what else has Bob Nunn created, what other worlds, and boy oh boy is this something special. So let's crack it open. Again, similar intro here to Earthman. You have kind of, here's this little splashy here thing, and then it hurdles you right into the plot so quickly that you have no chance to gasp for air.
I whiplashed on the
Yeah.
first page.
Yeah, I know. With the opening dialogue of Randy Ross, I want to speak to you about the company you've been seen with lately. So instantaneously, Randy is being confronted by his friends in terms of, like, you've been keeping the wrong crowd. I've been seeing you with these women. You're not going to church anymore, and we got to talk, right?
Conflict heaped on top of conflict, and we're not even past the first three panels, the first tier of panels on the first page.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and it's like, okay, you're not going to church, and then he's like, well, yeah, my. So instantly we're like, okay, this is a Christian comic. Okay, now I got it. Okay, and then he's like, my pastor doesn't approve of my lifestyle, and then his friend here is like, well, of course, our pastor listens to hard rock. which is amazing. He doesn't believe in the virgin birth, and he says hell is a figment of the imagination. So forget your church. So now it's like you're part of this rock church, my friend. You know,
I
like
just, I mean, I love the idea of the dueling churches, competing for congregations. And, it's funny because that had like rings of some kind of truth to me. I feel like I knew kids in high school that were really into like
like my
being
church
born
can beat up
again.
your church type thing.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
our church is cooler than your church type thing. And I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't part of it, but it just feels like a conversation that I might have heard in the hallways at some point.
Yeah, I think what's going to become abundantly clear as this issue unfolds is that, Bob Nunn, who is the mastermind of both this and Earthman, that this is very reflective of his experience. So reflective that, he forgot that it's not going to translate at all to anybody but Bob Nunn. You know, like Bob Nunn was clearly someone who was shoved in more lockers than anyone in the history of man, and that's going to come through here pretty aggressively. And so here we have these guys who are instantly measuring their churches with each other, and Satan is just chilling, listening to them talk about this.
Any
So
comic that has Satan show up in panel 5 as some sort of like listener in on other people's conversations, and what he has to
eavesdropping
say,
Satan, yeah, yeah.
what he has to say in that, or what he's thinking in that thought balloon
Yeah,
is
if all
fucking gold,
churches
man.
if all churches were like Tom's church, I wouldn't have anything to worry about. So he's like, my master plan is if all these churches turned into hard rock churches, then my work here is done.
Like
What?
Satan has a lot to worry about
Oh
these
my
days.
god.
It's so, I don't know. It's great.
So let me ask you, because obviously, this was your first, this is the first time you've been nunned over the head with this.
Yeah.
What are you thinking first art wise, and what are you thinking story wise by panel 5?
Art wise, I'm really into it.
Okay.
I really love the drawings. But I'm a fan of like sort of untrained art.
Oh well, I mean,
Uh,
preaching to the choir, my friend.
right. I mean, we wouldn't be here
No,
like talking about power comics
no, no,
as in
no.
depth as
Yeah,
if we didn't love this sort of stuff. No, I really like the art a lot. It's great, especially like shading on Satan's cloak there.
you like charcoal.
Really like, yeah,
What's going on?
just a decision that you wouldn't really expect from somebody who's kind of drawing this way.
Yeah.
Um, so that's fantastic. But by panel 5, I'm like, this might be the best comic I've read in a really long time.
Wow.
It 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 actually gets better
Oh
as I
my
go through it,
God, does it ever get
and
better?
it really doesn't let you down at all.
No,
It's
no,
great.
no. So immediately, these guys continue a conversation. One guy's had it. He's going on a hike. And then while he's passing away, I believe it's our main character is saying, don't forget the rock concert. The 666ers,
Right.
which is an amazing rock band name, will drink human blood.
Gotta
Don't
see it.
forget the rock concert. The 666ers will drink human blood. And that prompts, Satan down here in his backwards cap to take time to act. So then our character sees the superhero image appear. I'm guessing, right? I think this is our main character. Yeah, it is our main character because of the shirt. That's the only way you can tell with
Yeah,
his work.
that's him.
Is wow, a superhero. I always wanted to be a superhero. And then our friend here, this must be a 14-year-old kid drawing this or something, because or a 55-year-old man. I don't know which. One of two.
You're
Yeah,
totally right.
yeah. Where this guy here is, you can be him. You can be him. You can be him. I'm Amos, and this is Amos. Sorry, I'm Amos, and this is Torch. So okay, already we are completely disoriented. We have no idea what's going on. We're hurtled into this. No cold open. There's no one's perched on top of a corporation in this issue. We're getting right into it.
No.
And so let's carry on here. And immediately Torch, and now he's introducing the idea of like, okay, Torch is based upon Matthew 5:16. So then we have to do our homework as readers to go bust out our Bible and figure out what the fuck, why he's called Torch. And then what did you mean when you said I could become him? And so then he goes into basically explain like anytime Satan tempts you, you just say, I rebuke you, quote unquote, and then you can become Torch. Torch will inhabit you, and you get to become this superhero. So that's a pretty wild idea. I haven't seen that.
Dude, no. And my immediate thought was like, well, if you want to become the superhero, you have to be like tempted every single time. So
Right.
how do you get tempted by people in order to become this? It just it's a crazy premise. I'm on board completely for it. But I
You're
was like,
sold.
whoa, this is just such a weird. I don't know. It just seemed like there was like a lot of it could become really complicated, but it's not in this comic at all. It's
Yeah.
not complicated.
Oh no 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 no. It is like, yeah, you're right. Like I'm totally on board, but like when you really like, I think it's kind of like secret is that it just works within its own universe, but the more you try and actually think about it, the more complicated it seems.
Totally. I mean, I don't know who Amos is. It's never really explained who Amos is, but I'm
No.
like, he's just Amos. I'm cool
Yeah.
with it,
Whatever.
you know?
Yeah. Whether he lives or dies, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. So anyway, now Randy shows up at church, and the pastor is surprised to see him, but he's glad to be back. And what caused you to straighten your ways? And then he's like, well, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. So now we understand that Randy is excited to become Torch and is probably just waiting, like you said, for someone to tempt him so he could try it out. And then now we cut to this amazing comedic partnership here between Satan and his monster, Demona. What do you got to say about Demona here?
Super weird design and the you know, Demona, it sounds like a woman's name in some kind of
Yeah.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was just like that's an odd choice, but yeah, I don't know. Demona is a really weird character.
I mean, it
Uh,
definitely could be. We might not know, but
True. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, shouldn't
jump to
guess.
conclusions.
Yeah. But great character. Love Demona.
So then we basically have they obviously live in a cave, and then now Satan's like, okay, I have our perfect mark for this. We're gonna go bother Randy, and so basically, Demona comes out of his cave and accosts Randy and tries to tell him like, man, you don't know what happiness is in your church. You got to get back in the gang. You got to get back on drugs. So now we realize more about this is a reveal more to Randy, which is amazing. Like, man, you got to get back. You got to get back on those drugs you were on. As if he's not on drugs already. Seeing a fucking Demona in front of him. And so then, yeah, and which is amazing. And then, of course, he tries it out. He says, I rebuke you. And then, of course, puff. Right?
Very simple drawing. That's all that's necessary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Puff.
That's it. And so now this is where we learn that it has worked, and Randy is now turned into Torch. Demona's very surprised, and then our onlooker here, Amos, is also impressed with what he sees. Then they kind of battle it out, man, and this is just great here, right? I mean,
So good. I particularly like Amos's commentary about Demona being really like a really great seducer or really great tempter or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Let's see. Demona is a
So good.
strong tempter. A
Right.
Torch,
Yeah, that's right. It's like,
yeah,
uh-oh,
Torch may be in
watch
trouble.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a real good tempter. He's a good salesman. Yeah.
It's amazing. But
Oh
yeah, the
my
fight
god.
sequence is like
Yeah, amazing.
fantastic.
So
So
good.
great.
So good.
Yeah, I just love the panel border on that one too.
Oh
It's just
yeah, total,
super effective.
totally great. Kind of the first time that's obviously anything like that's remotely happening in this issue.
Yeah,
So it really
it's
does
great.
like, yeah, give it some extra emphasis there. And then of course
Yeah.
this is even cool too, just the perspective here on the ground.
Yeah.
Shows that the guy has got some chops.
Yeah.
There's some dynamic to this that other power comics don't have. Um,
That's
and,
great.
and so he knocks him down, and Demona here has an inner monologue where he's like, I gotta tempt him with something else. I gotta reach into my the recesses here. And then he says, don't forget the wild chicks. You had a gas. And then he says, yes, I'll have to admit that. So that he agrees, like, yeah, man, those chicks, man, that was great. We had a gas. A gas. Too. Again, who says that? Someone like in the 50s? Is this literally something from the 50s? But then he mentions hard rock. So I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't. It's
Sheltered.
weird that that's a
Farmlands.
weird term. It's weird slang to be using.
It really is. It's really, really crazy.
Where is Nunn from?
He is from DE's Delaware, right? I think so.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Delaware.
So we're in the heart of
Wow.
Delaware here.
Wow.
Yeah. So riding the train with Joe Biden here.
Here we go.
So
Oh man.
so then remember Betty Lou and the fun times you had when she got high? If you ever get back in church, your fun is all over. And he's like, oh shit, he has a point there.
That's a and that's I love that panel because it's like Torch sort of like turns away to like, process
Contemplate.
his own thoughts about, what he's talking about. It's
Right.
effective.
Right, right. And then obviously now Demona, the plan's working. Just odd illustration too.
Very strange.
And then while he's contemplating all the chicks that he banged before, he gets punched in the face. And then Amos here is there to call the match, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Also too, the fist in the frame there too.
It's great.
Yeah. So then, because of his defeat, he turns back into Randy, and Amos is there to tell us that. And then, Randy's like, well, it looks like Torch isn't much of anything, which is so weird because it's now this weird thing where like the laws of identity in this world are so weird. Like, he just was excited for someone else to inhabit his body.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, and it's just strange that like, yeah, Torch, you become Torch when you're able to stand up to temptation, but so when you give in, you revert back to your
Yeah.
former self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just that I don't know, it's great. I mean, I love the premise, but yeah, you just don't really understand what the designs are. Like Mona is trying to tempt him to what end? Like, I guess Satan wants to have as many souls to corrupt, as many souls possible corrupted on Earth. It's never really fully explained, but it doesn't really matter.
No, I mean clearly. I think now that this is this being my second Bob Nunn. I mean clearly this is all very quarter baked. And
Yeah,
but that's what's great about it because it just is so surreal in that way. Like it's just
yeah,
so like this is a dream. This is a Christian fever dream. And
exactly.
that's what's so amazing about it.
I
To
wouldn't have
me,
it any other way.
I wouldn't have it any other way. And so now he explains to him how when he's tempted, Torch becomes weaker, even though that's what conjures him, which is the paradox. And then he explains here, which is just funny to call out. Getting high and having fun with girls like Betty Lou may be wrong, but my old gang does it, and they are not weaklings. And and this is the theme that is planted now in this issue, which is the idea of being a weakling and a sissy is something that Bob Nunn is very fixated on, which to me lends the idea that oh man, this guy lived stuffed inside a locker for probably a third of his life.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that you're right. That panel sets us off on a trajectory that nobody could see coming.
nobody could see coming. And so then now Amos is about to take him on a spirit walk, and they go on this spirit walk, and Amos is now going to explain the concept of masculinity in a way that I've never heard in any form of literature or art ever. Right?
Yeah, I don't. That's pretty singular. I can't say I've heard anything the same either.
So the world has the wrong opinion of masculinity. The things they think will make a man out of you will do the opposite. So he starts to describe that, and he takes him around town, showing him these broken men who used to be these tough, boozers who would woo ladies, and now they're broken, and this guy can barely pick up his fucking lit cigarette on the ground. It's just amazing.
So good.
This is so good. Sorry, extra emphasis on this guy trying to pick up his cigarette there. It's so good. So good.
Too many fights, too many shots of whiskey.
Yeah, this is so good though. I mean, that's such a great way to articulate that. Like a broken
Yeah.
man, like, my fucking smoke. And now, now this guy can't, and then Amos kind of like in a Ghost of Christmas Past is kind of taking him through these people and saying, yeah, now he can't even rub two nickels together. And, oh, remember Chuck? And then you're like, holy shit. And then you look at Chuck, whose like face is like melting.
In a bad way.
In a bad way. Chuck's in a real fucking bad way. It says, remember Chuck? He used to get high on drugs, which is now the reason he is now in an asylum, fucking screaming at the ceiling. God. Like just nuts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild.
Bonkers.
And then remember this guy? Oh yeah, he got a venereal disease and is now in a fucking wheelchair. So
that drawing for that panel.
This one
is super sad. Like
very
feel like a lot of empathy for, but it's also weird just how close the other background wheelchair person is. It's just really weird composition. Just very strange.
Very somber. Very somber.
Yeah.
Yeah, like no, we're not kind of pulling away from this world a little bit. It's actually more like as we're in the asylum, we're like more sensory deprived now. It's like
right.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And then this is definitely in the running for top 3 panels of the whole issue here.
Oh, that's so good, yeah.
Which now we're seeing like, what's this? Oh, it's Samson? And then here's what the narration from Amos says. Why do people say you're not a man until you have an affair with a girl like Rod did, who's the man in a wheelchair? When weak sissies do it and remain sissies. If it's masculine to drink whiskey, why are there so many skinny girls that can drink more of it than most men? Samson was an abstainer. So what is going on here? Clearly, this man who made this was bullied extraordinarily, right?
Yeah.
This is his experience. This is a documentary. We're seeing a documentary here unfold.
It's just realize that it's Samson is straight edge,
yeah,
super powerful straight edge.
Yeah, he's an abstainer. All right, and then we get to the best piece of dialogue I've ever read in a power comic, which is Amos's Oscar moment here, where he says, "Some men think modesty is just a feminine practice, but if male nudity shown in public doesn't offend you, you're not a man." Let me repeat that. If male nudity shown in public, where has male nudity been shown in public? Seriously, like at this time. If male nudity shown in public doesn't offend you, you're not a man. Okay? No man on earth knows how ugly male nudity is in the eyes of a woman. True statement. And what it does to her mind, her stomach, and the male image. Oh, heavens, what it does to her stomach. Oh, my God.
Amazing.
So just one of the most amazing monologues. And then I'm very much against male nudity on TV and magazines. Again, what? I guess it's a way of talking about, like homosexuality, getting it through here, but it's not saying what it is. So it makes it that much more like, what are you talking about? Which obviously is extraordinarily problematic, but
very. Yeah, but it's just another turn that this comic takes, and you're just like, where are we? What? Yeah. What are we doing? Like, I thought this was about a superhero.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what? Like, where's the wall? Are we breaking through walls here? No, we're talking about how male nudity in the public is. If you're not offended by that, you're not a man. And look what it does to a woman's stomach. Unbelievable.
Super declarative. Like, laying down the law about male nudity.
Yeah, male nudity, no bueno. And so then we cut back to like Bible times here, and then like we're learning about how Isaiah like had speeches that he gave, but he was partially clothed, so it kind of counts as nudity. I don't know. I kind of lost me there. And now
That's
they're at a,
amazing though.
it is amazing.
I just love that. So he's like, all right, now we're gonna parse words about like Bible interpretation.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, again, I think it's Bob Nunn's experience. Like, someone
Yeah,
probably told him, like, hey, male nudity is no good. And then he's like, well, hang on a minute, you know? Um,
yeah,
and then, so now we get back here to Isaiah, who's, again, who, so weird. And then now more talk about male sex. Edify the male sex in every way you can while most of the world's just trying to destroy our image. So now it's like protecting the masculine image is what this is all about. You will face Demona again. And which is interesting too, if you actually think about this on like another kind of metaphorical level, is Randy is this kind of problematic former gang member apparently who is doing drugs, and it's like, but the real masculine image comes through in form of a superhero, when he's being tempted. So that's what this is all about, which is really
right.
out there, even for Christianity, it's out there, I feel like.
Yes,
So, oh yes, Demona, I'll be ready for him now. So now after the spirit walk, he's back on. He's ready to fight. I just have to fight Demona again. This time I have to win. So now he's ready to win. And then, dude, MVP panel right here. This panel is amazing.
it's great.
All it says
Great.
is,
All the textures and
yeah.
it's just really great.
All it says is Randy prays every day, and it's just like, this should be a shirt. This is just such amazing. Like, I love like this is very quaaluded out to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like everyone's very detached, and this is extremely detached. This is just like, I love it. I love
I
it.
mean it's great. I mean I love his backgrounds are really fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean the figures really occupy the world of the background, but that's a really attentive drawing, that one.
Totally. Totally. This is my favorite. So then, yeah, he reads the Bible every day. He goes to church every day, and now Satan's mad because he knows that they need a second try at this, and he really lectures Demona that like, hey, you gotta press him about that one girl he liked to sleep with, and she
Yeah.
you really gotta bring her up more, like so, which is amazing.
It's great.
Yeah, totally amazing. And so then, of course, this is an insane jump cut. We go from Demona and Satan like all the way, boom, right to all right, like
Yeah. Round two.
round two,
Ding ding.
round two, ding ding. And so here we go. He turns into back into Torch. Now they fight. This is amazing too, right? Just like
Mm-hmm.
really cartoony though, because he's hiding in a tree now. So now he's afraid. But all
So
of a
good.
sudden, the lady of his dreams, Betty Lou, shows up. So we get to see her now, and she's like, "What's going on here?" Like, and but she doesn't know. Oh, police are coming. But she doesn't know that that this is Randy, right?
Right.
And
Right. She has some inkling later, but just because of like, I don't know, she gets a vibe from Torch or something.
totally, totally. And of course, now actually Betty Lou being there and him talking to her, he's distracted and he gets clobbered in the face. But he fights back and he's kind of dazed and weakening. But, now she's fully tempting him. She's here to tempt him in the flesh. And oh boy, our guy's going to fall prey to that, right?
It's not just suggestions through words. Now it's actually
Yes,
somebody that he can put his arms around.
totally, totally. So then they duke it out some more, and then he actually now looks like Demona wins. So now it's 2-0 for Demona, and Betty Lou
Yep.
comes up and then noticed that, yeah, you were right actually, that, yeah, she saw that it was Randy. He turns back to Randy, but Amos is there and he's like, I can resist other temptations, man, but I can't resist her, you know. And then this is another other terminology that's seemingly from the 1940s, which is the Bible says you should not yoke with unbelievers.
This is brand new to me. I learned something from this comic here.
I know. I felt like, what? Like, am I supposed to know what yoke means?
Yeah, super weird.
It's like a Delaware thing.
Maybe.
The Bible says you're not supposed to yoke with unbelievers, and then he's like, I can't forget her. I can't give her up. And I guess I'm just going to be consistently beaten by this devil man. So then now Randy's here. He's going to church again. and his pastor is there, and now he's kind of lecturing her about her, right? I mean, that's kind of what's going on, and but
Yeah, he says he like has to like deny her, I think. Like
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's got to deny her, but he can't. And he's like, no, can't get her off her mind. I got to go see her. And so he comes in, and this is where things take an interesting turn, I feel like, because he comes in, he's invited, and he's like, she's like, uh-oh, you got a Bible with you. What's,
right.
this is not cool. Like boner killer, like immediately. and they sit down. He starts quoting the Bible, and she's like, wait a minute. I live a good life, man. I was baptized, but I don't need any of that shit, and but they profess that they want to get back together, but so do I, but we are unequally yoked together. So
Right.
there is an unbalanced yoke happening between them.
The yoke is not synchronized.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So before we can date again, I'll have to give you the church, and I will have to give up. Sorry, you will have to give up the church and be your old self again. So she's laying the law down and being like, no more of this Jesus stuff. Like, if you want to be with me, man, you gotta lose those losers, and
yeah.
and if you're gonna quote the Bible to me, you can leave. So now we're like, all right, she's standing up to Randy and his nerdiness. And of course, then he's like, slips her a pamphlet on the way out,
Right.
which is amazing.
Classic move.
Yeah, like,
You know.
like, at least here's something. Here's some reading. We'll talk about this
Yeah.
later.
Think on that.
Yeah, yeah. So then he goes fishing and sees her face in the reflection of the.
That's fantastic right
It
there.
really
I
is.
love that. That's an ambitious panel
Totally.
to create, I think, for him too.
Totally. Yeah. So now he's really sad and sees her in there, and he's like, "What have I done?" And he can't shut her out of his mind. So now it's just an amazing Power Comics love story, of two who are impossibly yoked, and but then of course there's the shadow of Demona, and then he's really wrestling with it, going back. What is he going to do? But now he's like, next time I need Jesus. It's not just rebuke you, Demona. I need to do it in Jesus' name. So that's what he proclaims will occur on their next and final encounter.
Love it.
And so now we see some more. He's happened around town, and
Another deviation from
oh,
like the straight line of the story.
and this is where it gets a little cringy to me.
Yeah, very.
This is where it's very cringy, and like now I'm like, all right, Bob, like, or what's his name? Yeah, Bob Nunn.
Bob Nunn, yeah.
Um, is the introduction of this character Shannon C, which is
Great name though.
great name, which is clearly another visual manifestation of Bob Nunn's insecurities towards his own masculinity. More
Yeah.
so than anything, with this effeminate character, Shannon, who is basically belittled by the cast of this comic here, and he's this awkward character, and yeah, and obviously these two characters get into a huge. Her name is Ruth, and they get into a huge argument over Shannon, right?
Mm.
And then this guy gets entered in here. Another cast of character here. Riffraff like Bill. Sissies like Shannon, and guys who neglect their personal appearance like that are one bad reflection of the male sex. So now we're going back to, like, here's this effeminate interpretation of it, and then here's this just like gross obese man, and how they're both bad interpretations of masculinity. So now we're harping again on like some deeply trauma that Bob Nunn has suffered here, that needs to be dealt with in some way.
Working it out in the comic.
Working it out. That's what it is. This is very like him working it out here, and so now she's saying, "Oh, I know someone who's a good example of the male sex," which is amazing. And I know it isn't Bill or Shannon, which are the two extremes. And then all of a sudden Shannon's getting beat up by this other guy, and he's being called a sissy, and but here we go. Randy steps in, and now these guys tussle, and he punches him in the dick, um, which is amazing,
Yeah.
right? Like this
Which
is great.
echoes that panel, echoes that earlier panel of Torch fighting Demona.
Yeah, totally. This one here. Yeah, he loves
Yeah.
he loves he loves going for that lower midsection.
It's like
Yeah,
just like horizontal punch, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Whole body is like completely parallel to the ground.
And then this is where this comic again is just goes in a place where now you know what this is all really about, right? And it's about what it means to be a man in the eyes of Bob Nunn. And again now the this pastor is now going through like, like, yeah, you stood up for Shannon, but he's got a whole lot of problems. We need to turn Shannon into a man. And so that's when he gets brought to a drill sergeant who basically beats it out of him, to be
Yeah.
to turn into a male cadet who's easily climbing rock formations, which is just crazy, right?
Yeah. It's just yeah, it's nuts. It's
Total
like
madness.
so weird archaic, yeah, 1950s sort of philosophy on I don't know, bettering yourself through the military or something.
You know what's a possibility, and this is something that I thought with Earthman too, is I also thought that what if these were forgotten comics that were
Mm.
discovered and
Mm.
republished, you know?
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense,
But then
actually.
it doesn't explain the hard rock reference, but like maybe he redid some things, but like it's so archaic and so old fashioned that I just or but then again, Earthman doesn't have any references to Christianity, and then when you kind of see that there is some Christian comic, Christian artwork, I think inherently there's going to be some childlike I mean, you kind of know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just makes me think about, what you said before is either a 15-year-old
Yeah,
person or a 55-year-old person. And
right,
these kind of like references just make you think, yeah, this person's like old. It almost makes you think of like Jack Chick,
right.
who's like, is older, but is like, wow, comics are really the way
Mhm.
that I'm going to express
Yeah,
what I think my philosophy, and it's like the only way that I'm going to be able to reach young people or something. I don't know. They're definitely on a mission, and but this it's yeah it's somebody who's older who is reaching back to a time where they think things were better,
yeah,
and I don't know.
yeah.
It's
It
just
could
it's
be
so
that.
old fashioned. Yeah, it just sort of it feels like that could be the case.
Yeah, but I think it's a very key point that you made, which is like this is obviously him in the only way that he can communicate his philosophy is through
Yeah,
this, which I don't think how you could corner somebody on the sidewalk and explain any of this. There's just no
exactly,
way, you know?
totally.
Like this is
I'm
the only way he can do it.
I'm so glad that he did do it because the entertainment value for us is
Yes.
like through
It's
the roof.
it's through
It's
the
like
roof.
unbelievable.
It's through the roof. So now Shannon, who they don't call Shannon anymore. Now he's being reborn. He has another name. What is it? I'm sure it's a weird
Max,
Max,
going by my
right?
middle name.
Yeah, Max. And so he gets reborn as Max, and then then the bully even comes up to him and kind of reconciles with him and
He's like, I want to be like you now,
yeah,
Max.
yeah, yeah. I want to be like you,
It's
which is like
great.
total just Christ exploitation type trick book toolbox being played out here, and then this is great too. And he's like, I want you to forgive yourself. Call on Jesus, ask him to forgive you, and he's like, Jesus, forgive me. I want to become a Christian now. This is the bully that beat him up earlier when he was Shannon. And then of course he's like, all right, hey, it feels good to be a Christian. See you in church, man. Gotta go. Or like like instantaneously like delighted and
So perfect.
not as grumpy as he was over here. Yeah, and then of course Max now is there's only one thing in the world that can make a man out of you, and that is masculinity and spiritual science through Christ who strengthens us. Simple math, simple algebra.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like exit stage right, Max.
Yeah, and then that's like this total side quest.
Yeah.
Total side quest to the story, which is
Yeah.
just madness. And then of
It's weird.
course, like, while that's all happening, we have Satan and his homeboy here getting ready for round 3. Um
Right.
And then of course we have, this is an amazing drawing, right?
So good. Yes.
Where he's
More
told.
Demo. I would love to have just a comic about Demona and their life, man, and just like hanging out in hell and caves.
Getting into like petty arguments with Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like Demona's
Satan
like,
as his boss.
yeah, yeah,
Man,
yeah. This is so amazing because he's like, all right,
so
like
good.
he keeps calling me ugly. Am I ugly? So now we got some comic relief. It's not all serious for Bob. There's some comic relief,
Yeah.
and then now Satan's going to give him more strength than you ever had. And what is that? Like like I'm gonna like,
Like Satan's blessing, I guess, like
where it's like I'm gonna
putting the
build.
hand laying hands on the neck of Demona
Oh
or
wow,
something.
I interpreted that as like I'm gonna put like, like a husk over you. I didn't say,
Oh,
but no, you're probably right. I can't. Sometimes when you look at panels like this, it's like hieroglyphics. You have no idea what the fuck's going on.
yeah, it's true. It's up with the interpretation.
It is, but there's this really cool little demon dude in the background there.
Yeah, it's so good.
So now, again, jump cut, like serious jump cut. Like
Yeah.
there is nothing in between. This is amazing, which we'll get to here in a second. But so the encounter happens. He turns back into Torch, obviously, and now they're at it. And but here comes Betty Lou, and it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
she always picks the worst time to show up, like right when he's already being tempted. And now she's like, I can't leave you, Randy. We need to be together. But the reveal is that she read the pamphlet, and the pamphlet was very convincing. And now she's going to be a
Pamphlets
Christian.
work.
The pamphlets
Yeah.
work. What's going to happen to us after this?
Man.
Male nudity is over for you and I, my friend.
Totally. Yeah. What are we gonna do?
Yeah. And so then that just gives him the strength to finally kick Demona's ass, which we see here in just amazing fashion, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's
like
great.
just so good. Like this leg here is incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, just amazing, just amazing. I love how it exists
Yeah,
out
I
of the
just
frame.
love all the different angles that he chose for that. It's just totally ridiculous.
So,
It's
yeah,
amazing.
and like boop, like the uppercut.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
great. And so then here we wrap up the story with Demona crying and Satan fleeing, and that's the last we're going to hear from them. And then of course one thing that was established early on as a subplot was how he needed a new car, and of
Right.
course not only is she going to become a Christian for him and have his back, she actually bought him a new car too. So I mean, goddamn, that's a pretty goddamn good deal. If you're Randy, you get to have your cake and eat
And
it too.
her parents are millionaires
That's
and
right.
his parents are millionaires. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
It's the best of all worlds, man. You get your chick, you're both
unbelievable.
millionaires, you get a new car, you just killed Satan. Satan's
Everything
afraid of you.
everything works out.
Everything works out. And then, of course, we get, this is just incredible, too, because
Yeah.
it's amazing to me. Let me just say that, first of all, things to remember. And he emphasizes the two panels that I specifically called out were the best two panels. Bob Nunn and I have the same taste in Bob Nunn, which is great. And so you have the panel here about how male nudity in the public place is absolutely just the worst thing ever. And then, of course,
For everybody.
including women and their stomachs.
Right.
And then, of course, this panel, which is about how skinny girls can drink more than men, but Samson, he's straight edge.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Unbelievable. And also don't forget how Shannon C became Max. Do you think this was a note from the pastor? Do you think like he turned it into the pastor and he's like, we need something about that Shannon C. Something needs to be done about that Shannon C.
Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder if he actually had some like outside input on this, like from his pastor about
Like notes. Maybe they financed
Yeah.
it. Maybe they financed it.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they financed it.
That wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, because obviously, like, one thing too is like we were talking about in our last episode about how Steve McCardle, he's a metalhead illustrator, and it's always cool to have someone in the band who can also draw, right? And this is like somebody in the church who can also draw. And what's cool about this was clearly sold in the church. Like, that's where this was designed for. That's probably why it's so rare and not something you see pop up that often, is because he was a guy who went to a church and he could draw. And maybe it's not, I'd like to think it's not fully his politics. And maybe it's whatever warped church he went to, and he had a job to do, and this maybe could be a work for hire. But then, of course, maybe it's not, because I do think it is personal, because it does get into issues that I'm sure he faced, being a teenager perpetually stuffed in a locker.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all, if that was the case, judging from this story.
I love this too. Rebuke the devil and he will flee. I love just like the shakiness of those lettering, and like that would be cool on a t-shirt, of course.
So great.
So great. But yeah, man, that's it for Torch. So tell me, what was your thoughts in totality after experiencing this?
I mean, the whole thing is really, like I said, one of the best comics I've read in a long time. Just because every panel delivers entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like panel after panel, and it's just each one is better than the next, and like layering more and more information on top of the last one. Like, just the first page alone, he doesn't waste any time sucking you into like the story.
No.
Like his first panel, that first panel is a really good first panel for a comic.
Yeah. Like
You really want to know what happens next.
it's true. Randy Ross, I want to
You
speak
know?
to you about the company we've been seen with lately.
And then he says, "Oh, what, the East Side Gang?"
Yeah, that's right. We missed that. Yeah. You mean the East Side Gang? Man, dude, he's part of the East Side Gang, and which is
East Side Gang, we have a
amazing.
good time.
We have
It's
such a
like
good time doing drugs.
we have such a good time. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just comics are not written like this at all,
No.
especially modern comics. And
No.
it's sad because there's a lot to be learned from this. There's like a lot of um, like just concentration of narrative uh, in each panel, and yeah, people. It's not naturalistic dialogue, but it's serving like the
No.
story, and it's getting across like these characters' motivations and ideas. And I don't know. I just want to read more comics like this, and I'm really glad that this one exists, because reading it was like a real pleasure.
Oh, and we will, but for sure. And one thing I do want to point out by this too, which kind of I think is why it's so effective, is to me it's like it's such a non sequitur, like right off the top, that
Right. Yeah.
it's coming out of nowhere, that it almost feels like you're flipping through the TV channels and you've landed on a show that's like midway through. Do you know?
Right.
Like, and you're just like, whoa,
Totally.
what's going on? Like, what's up with Randy? He's part of the fucking East Side Gang. Like,
Honestly, it feels like the first several pages were ripped out, and you're just starting the story like on a random page in the middle of a comic. But that's
Earth,
what's great about it. And actually, that's like writing 101, is like, in media res. You start in the middle of everything.
yeah, totally. And like Earthman is the same thing. It's the first panel is these fishermen found the body on Draculus River, and then the observation of all the blood has been drained. 2 tiny holes are in the throat. I mean, that
Rough.
is that is landing on a crazy ass channel. So, Bob Nunn,
Yeah,
man,
seriously,
you've created some wacky shit, my friend, but we love it.
it's great.
Wouldn't have it any other way. So,
No way. It's so good.
I think that this is the full discography for Bob Nunn too. I haven't come across anything else.
That is the sad truth of power comics as well. Is like, usually these guys just have one or two issues in them, and then that's all we're left with. You want more. They leave you wanting more, but this is all we get.
That's all we get. So with that, awesome read through. I just want to plug the Patreon if I can for 1 second. I know you've been cruising it. But But yeah, this is what we're doing, man. On Power Comics Patreon, we are wanting to upload all the crazy ass issues like Earthman to our Patreon, so people, all around the world can appreciate this amazing art. So if you go to patreon.com /Power Comics, sign up there. That's where the Power Comics Book Club is going to live in terms of the issues that we're going to share, and then we're going to be talking about them a couple days later. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So let's do this, man. This is fun. I really appreciate
Yeah,
this.
it's
This is
great.
awesome. Yeah. So all right, guys. Well, that's it for now. On behalf of Bob Nunn, we'll catch you later, and don't be naked ever in public.
Power